So we drop everything. Chris and I are going down there, and I remember being so nervous. Like, this is insane. We're gonna meet our sister. Like, Chris, we're gonna meet our sister. And I'm wearing like these white jeans and this, top, cute top, and I tried to do my hair or whatever. And I look over at Chris. He's driving us like a lunatic, and he's wearing basketball shorts and like he just came from the gym. And I'm like, Chris, this is insane. Or is this not insane? This is insane. We have a sister and like we have two sisters. This is crazy. So we get there. Now I'm just sitting. I remember sitting in the waiting room and I'm like, this is crazy. It's still crazy. I mean, are you on the same page with me? And he's like, yeah, it's pretty crazy. And so I'm like, what are we going to talk about? Chris, like, what are we going to talk about? This is crazy. And he's like, I don't know. Our day. And I'm like, our lives, Chris. Our lives. So we go in, and as we're signing in, I remember I could see her through like this window through the door. And immediately I felt like she was my family from like that first moment looking at her. Like it almost felt like I was always with her. Something, it was just this weird, comforting family feel immediately. And right when we walked in, I remember like there was some people clapping and like gathered and we hugged her and we talked, I remember, for like longer than we were allowed to for guest hours. And they allowed us to stay a little longer. But it was just so crazy. And so I remember when we left too, we were leaving and I look at Chris and I'm like, yeah, she kind of looks like you. And he's like, yeah, I thought so too. He was like, it was like hitting us both. Like, this is crazy. How did this even, like, we had been lied to our whole lives, but we just had so much happiness from this. Like, we wish, obviously, that we had them our whole lives and they weren't given up for adoption, even though our situations were really not good. But now that we found this out and we have them, we're all still so young. It was like, wow, this is just, it felt good. We were excited. And so then, it was maybe a month later. I had been in contact with Judith. We'd been writing back and forth. She had friend requested, Chris and we had gotten in contact on Facebook, and then even some family members were slowly starting to find out. Then my husband, he works in the oil and gas industry, and he had to travel overseas. I have never been overseas in my whole life. And he's telling the owner of his company the story, like, oh my gosh, my wife found out she has two siblings. One lives in France and one lives in Canada. And, it's just so crazy. So he happens to be going near France for this, travel, this part of his job. He had a place he had to go visit. And the owner of the company says, fly her there to meet her sister. So crazy. So I immediately, messaged Judith, I'm going to come to France and we're going to get to meet each other. And at this time it was so weird because she, in Europe, they were traveling a bunch. Like everybody in Europe travels around like August. And so she was getting back the day I would have to leave. And I told my husband, there's no way I'm going all this way without seeing her. So he had to leave and I had to stay by myself. And I remember being nervous because I was in a different country by myself and I was going to meet my sister for the first time. But what was even more special about the situation was her mom that adopted her was in town too. So I not only got to meet her, but I got to meet her adoptive mom. And I remember the morning that I was going to meet her, I'm getting dressed and I'm so nervous. And I go downstairs early and I'm pacing in this really tiny lobby. And the guy standing at the front is just looking at me like, are you okay? You're sweating a little bit. And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm just going to meet my sister. And he's like, oh, okay. And I'm like, for the first time, crazy, travel bomb on you. And he's like, oh my God, he's going like, this is crazy too. Do you want me to film it or take your picture? And I'm like, yes. But he ends up just taking a picture. And I remember she was walking up and my heart was beating so fast. But, she came in and we hugged, and it was such a good feeling. Meeting both of them was just, I'll never forget the feeling of how happy and just like a feeling of family, comfort. It was amazing. So we spent the whole day together, her mom and me, and her, and we went to a park and we talked for hours, and they showed me around Paris. It was just a magical day, really. It was amazing. And I still think about that. I spent 2 days actually with her, and I always think like, gosh, I'll never forget every detail of that trip. So I flew home, and ever since we've really been building, a close, great relationship. Well, November comes of 2017. Yes, 2017. So this is, same, everything's pretty new. I had gone to visit Judith. I had seen Sarah. So this is all just fresh and new and crazy. And it was during my daughter's birthday in November. I had a dinner. We had planned a little dinner for her, and I invited some family and friends. And my dad actually couldn't make it, and my mom couldn't make it at this time. She was in another facility. So I felt kind of comfortable to speak openly about what, everything that was going on. It was on my mind. It was so crazy to me. And I keep using that word a lot, but it really was it was mind blowing. It was just shook my world. So I'm talking about it with some of my dad's side of the family who I don't really have much contact with my mom's side of the family. So when I talk about family, it's mostly my dad's side, or it is my dad's side. But my aunt was there, and even my great aunt, who is like the sweetest woman in the world. And so I'm telling them, like, isn't this crazy? Like, did y'all have any idea? And they were all like, no. I mean, they were visibly in shock. Like, this is crazy, insane. How did they hide this? How did your mom hide these pregnancies? We were pretty close to them. I just don't get it. Why didn't they tell anybody? We were going on and on talking about it. Well, I see my great aunt sitting there, and she's pretty quiet. And she goes, I'm sure they have a lot of guilt and pain, even shame that they're dealing with. And I was like, I know. I'm the closest, I'm very close to my mom and my dad, and Chris's too. And so we knew that it wasn't easy. It wasn't just like, my dad still to this day has a hard time even talking about giving them up for adoption. It's just really, they both had a lot of guilt and shame. So I was like, yeah, I totally get it. And that's why I feel comfortable right now talking about it openly while they're not here, because I know they still have a lot to process. Like, this just came out. Something they thought they would just take to their grave with them. So, then I noticed my great aunt's still sitting there, and so she's not saying much. Well, when she leaves, she tells her daughter in the car, she's like, I can't hold this on my heart anymore. There's another one before Samantha. And information gets passed to me. Basically, no one knew about Judith or Sarah. Those were completely, only my mom and dad knew. They kept it a complete secret. Even my mom's sister that said she sold the baby for money, the reason she thought that was because she was down visiting and she noticed my mom was pregnant, and my mom denied it. She went to Vermont with us, came back. My aunt was still there at the apartment that we lived in, and she noticed my mom wasn't pregnant anymore. So this became a long time rumor, but my mom never confirmed it. My mom and dad kept this totally a secret. But when they were in high school, so they had been together since they were about 15 years old. I believe, and I don't have much confirmation, they got pregnant either their senior year or the year right after. And from what my great aunt knows is they came to my dad's parents for help. And they all set on the idea that adoption would be the best option for them because they were just out of high school. They were not top of their class, let's say. They didn't have any money. They didn't have good jobs. They worked in a fast food place. So this was the best option. My grandma and my grandpa on my dad's side knew. And my grandma confided in her sister, my great aunt, and she was sworn to secrecy. The baby was born in Houston, Texas, and was given up for adoption through Catholic Charities. And that's all that she knew. So this was what I had been waiting for, really. I couldn't understand how my mom had messed up that detail, even though this was huge. And I can't imagine how she felt after, some of this came out. But once my mom got out of the facility that she was in, I told her that I knew. And she didn't deny it. She said there was another girl before me. And I asked if she would help me find her. Because at this time, she was actually kind of excited. She was happy to know Sarah and Judith. She actually started opening up and telling me how much she worried about them over the years and thought about them. And it was really painful for her to keep the secrets. So she told me she would help, and she did try to call the hospital at one point. And I remember her saying that hospital wasn't there anymore. And there was somebody that was going to try to help her get records. I tried not to ask too many questions, which now I kind of regret, but I just didn't want to make her feel pressured or anxious. And she was still going through a lot of pain and suffering from her mental illness and on different medications, and had other things weighing over her that, maybe we can discuss at a later time, but she was going through a lot. And so I didn't want to press her. Unfortunately, last October, she passed away in 2018. So, she was the source of a lot of where I would get my answers. So right now, we currently don't know where the older sibling is or who she is. And I am not an only child. The oldest child anymore. I'm a middle child. It's not easy to cope with knowing that. But right now, I feel like I'm still the oldest because we haven't found her yet. But I'm hopeful. I want to find her. And I know all of the siblings do. So we're excited. And that was just kind of, was long, but it was really, I tried to keep it kind of short, how we found out about each other and how Chris and I found out that not only did we have siblings, but they were full-blooded siblings, why they were kept secret. And it was crazy. It wasn't just kept secret from us. It was the whole family, really. The whole family, all of their friends. No one knew. But I am really excited to know them, and I'm looking forward to the future and just spending more time with them, Skyping with them, building a really strong relationship, and hopefully staying close forever. But that's it. I will see y'all next time. Bye.